Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it will be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! Hey guys, it's Crown. Thank you so much for the kind wishes and prayers you sent me yesterday. I truly appreciate it. Forgive me for not being able to respond to every single one of them, but I definitely read all of them and received all the love and concern. I'm feeling slightly better today after taking some of your advice, and hopefully I'll sound a bit better in today's narrations. Let's go. First story. Entitled parents tried to get me arrested and leave in cuffs themselves. First off, I really like small women. Part of it is my mom and a number of the women in my family are short. And if I can find a woman who can even slightly compare to my mom, I will be the luckiest man on earth and live up to the Lilo and Stitch line, tiny but fierce. The time, spring break. The place, Fort Lauderdale. The story. About 10 to 15 years ago, I was in college in Fort Lauderdale, made spring break fun easy to have. So I decided to go down to the beach to do some photography homework. I ended up finishing near a bar a friend of mine worked at, who told me about a nice scotch they had at the bar. It was a 20-year-old single malt estate bottling, very rare for bar service. So I got a glass and went across the street to sit on the wave wall, drink my scotch, read my book, and ogle all the ladies on the beach. So me, I was 24 at the time, thusly an idiot. After about an hour or so, I was finishing my scotch and thinking of heading out. A very lovely young lady approached and sat down beside me. Now to let you all understand, let me describe her. She was about 5'3", long red hair, petite, well-proportioned, and a very definite womanly figure. She was wearing a one-piece swimsuit. I won't get too descriptive, but trust me, it was not an outfit for a child. We got talking and I decided to hang out a bit longer to see how things would go. After a bit, I offered to grab some drinks, but when I asked for a daiquiri, I figured to cover my butt and asked if she had some ID, as she was young-looking enough to get me in trouble if I did not check. So she pulled out an ID saying she had turned 21 last month. Legal, yay, and handed it over to show the bartender. I came back about 15 minutes later with our drinks. The bartender had no problem with the ID. We continued chatting. But as things kept going and she continued to drink her drink, something started to come off as wrong. I started to think she was underage. But as the ID passed muster with the bartender, I wasn't too worried as a fake ID was on her if something came up. Enter the entitled parent. As we were finishing our drinks and I was working up the nerve to invite her to my room, up walks a couple, couldn't be more stereotypical tourists if they had actually used that white crab on their noses, and approaches a girl. The entitled mother says, "Hey honey, where did you go? We've been looking everywhere for you." The entitled dad, seeing the ubiquitous red Solo cup, "What's that you're drinking?" "I don't know, some sort of strawberry slushy type drink he got me," pointing at me. She points at me. The entitled dad grabs a cup and sniffs it. "This is alcoholic. You gave my daughter an alcoholic drink? How dare you? I'm calling the cops." Then the entitled mother grabs the daughter by the arm and yanks her behind herself. "You pervert! You probably drugged it, didn't you? You'll go directly to jail giving a 15-year-old a drunk drink." Obviously, upon hearing that, the pucker factor went to 11. I mean, I knew I did nothing wrong, but still, 15? Damn. I tried to explain about the fake ID and was about to get on them about her swimsuit when I was cut off with, "Our daughter would never do something like that." She turns to the daughter and says, "Would you, honey?" And the daughter shakes her head no. At this point, I figured discretion is a better part of valor and sit back down, hoping the bartender would remember the ID I showed him. I proceeded to sit and ignore the harangue they were spewing and Wait for the cops. I also noticed what looked like her ID dropped in the sand behind the wall. This is important later. A few minutes later, the cops arrived on the person of my female cop friend, who was a Dungeons and Dragons friend with me and the bartender, and her partner, of course. The entitled dad and mom dragon, the entitled daughter, immediately rush up to my friend, spinning their tale of how I tried to drug the entitled daughter with an alcoholic drink, and when they mention my fake ID excuse, the entitled daughter actually opens her purse and offers to let them search it. After this, the male cop pulls him aside to get their statement, and my female cop friend approaches me with a very conflicted look. We had met a couple of times before and got along well, but this was pretty serious of a situation. Before he even said something, I asked to lean over the wall and pointed to the fake ID. After he retrieved the ID and examined it, I explained my side of the story. After my explanation, he took a closer look at the entitled daughter's swimsuit, and his eyes nearly popped out of his head at how skimpy it was. If it had more than 5 square inches of fabric, including the strings, I would be shocked. The male cop pulled the female cop aside when they had a brief discussion before they arrested all 3 of them. The entitled daughter for a fake ID, and the entitled mother and the entitled dad for child endangerment. We all heard later at the next D&D game that although they never went to jail, they were held for the entire 48 hours, had their vacation ruined, and ended up with some major fines and a call to their state's DCFS. Ever since then, my spidey sense goes off. I'm out of there. Hope you all enjoyed my entitled parents experience. Next story. Entitled mother attempts to break into Navy PIER with predictable results. Fair warning, this one gets a touch violent. I'm in no way advocating violence or attempting to glorify violence, just trying to tell my story of an entitled mother who played a stupid game who won several stupid prizes. So backstory. I'm in the Navy, and a few years back, I was stationed on a ship. As part of my duties, I would occasionally have to stand as an armed guard at the entrance to the piers where the ships were docked. One Saturday evening, I'm standing guard, and for the first few hours, everything is going fine. A few pizza delivery drivers, a few totally not drunk sailors. Yes, it is a stereotype, but it's true. Overall, a typical evening. And then my quiet watch came to a screeching halt. The entitled mother came up to the gate and I asked to see her ID, and the following conversation ensues. For the sake of security, certain details are being left out. The entitled mother gives a very loud huff and pulls out her driver's license. "My son is on a ship." "Right, ma'am. Is he coming to get you?" "No, why?" "I can't let you onto the pier without proper identification or an escort." "But I showed you my license." "Ma'am, in order to come onto the pier by yourself, you'll need a military ID or a temporary pass. Since you don't have any of those, then you'll need your son to come down from the ship and escort you on board." While I was talking with the entitled mother, another person came up with her military ID in hand, and I attempted to let her through. Practically yelling, the entitled mother says, "I was here first, you brat." Actually, she didn't use brat, she said another strong word. "Ma'am, that is uncalled for." "What are you going to do about it, jerk?" Again, she didn't use jerk. She used the World War II German soldier analog. Starts with an N. I used every ounce of mental strength to not yell at her. "Ma'am, step away from the gate." "No, I'm going to see my son." And proceeds to attempt to push past me. I pulled my can of OC spray off my belt, move in front of her, and now forcefully commanding, "Ma'am, this is your last warning. Step away from the gate or you will be sprayed." For those of you who don't know what OC spray is, it is oleurosin capsicum. Think of it as mace and pepper sprays evil cousin, and it hurts a lot. Like 100,000 hypodermic needles full of burning molten salt being drilled into your eyes. And it doesn't stop for hours. The entitled mother makes one more step towards the gate, and she says, "Screw you, slur." I spray the entitled mother right in the face, toss the can away and tackle her to the ground and handcuff her. All the while she's yelling every obscenity in the book. She would have made a Civil War era sailor plush. She threatened to sue. "I know your boss. I'll get the president to get you fired." Which personally I would have loved to have seen. Yada yada typical Karen threats was no effect. All while this was going on, the other guard who was with me had called for the watch supervisor, and the girl who I was going to let through had called the base police. A few minutes later, 2 squad cars rolled up, one of which was the county sheriff, an ambulance and the watch supervisor. The medics started treating her OC contamination, and when they cut the cuffs off, they were flex cuffs, she punched 2 of them and wiped the OC onto the 3rd. The base cop ran over and cuffed her with real cuffs now. I recount the encounter to the sheriff and the watch supervisor. The other guard and the girl do the same, and the entitled mother was arrested for trespassing on government property twice, failure to follow the instructions of military police, resisting arrest and assaulting an EMT thrice. The best part was her son's ship pulled into port 2 days later. For anybody who may think I used excessive force with the OC spray, I had 5 reasonable options to stop the entitled mother. Verbal commands usually works with about 80% of sane and even slightly drunk or high people, but not gonna work on determined or stupid people. Mock takedowns, hands-on physical maneuvers and joint holds. Unencumbered would have been the best option, but in 25 plus pounds of gear and having a sidearm on makes these by themselves dangerous. Combined with OC or patent strikes makes these much more effective in gear. OC spray causes near instant reaction in 99% of people, with very rare severe reactions occurring in less than 1 in 50,000. Steel retractable pattern. While it would have been effective, the pattern was not necessary. Plus, well-placed strikes can easily break bone, and in a worst-case scenario for a body strike, cause a heart attack. 9mm sidearm. At no point during the encounter was a definition for deadly force authorization met, nor did I feel that my life, anybody's life, or the docked ship's safety were threatened by the entitled mother's actions. Even if the entitled mother had pulled a knife, the OC would be more than sufficient to disarm just about anybody. The full effects wear off in about 5 hours by themselves, and about an hour or 2 with medical care. Next story. I want another photo. We had a rude customer today. A 50-something Barbara and her teenage daughter. Strut in around 4:45 p.m. We close at 5 p.m. They wanted passport photos done, and we normally take 2 photos and then pick the best one and create the passport photo and put it through a passport checker and with an approval number send it off to the customer. A 10-minute process for digital, also 10 minutes for printing. The daughter asks to see her photo, so my colleague shows her and the girl cringes. Colleague takes another 2 photos, same thing. The teenager doesn't like them. I mean, that's what you look like, right? Not much will change if we keep taking photos. Colleague tells the pair I won't take any more photos. We have enough here. 7 images in total. Mommy then says we are paying customers. If my daughter doesn't like the photo, you will take a new one. What? Anyway, she spouted on about how she needs her passport photos sent through tonight, all the while parading and belittling my colleague because you know the customers always right energy. I walked over and offered her a refund, and that we're okay without her belittling behavior, especially now that it's 4:52. She refused a refund and just wanted the photos and reiterated she needed them this evening. My colleague with red eyes tells me it's okay and that she will do them. She was doing prints at the time and digital images afterwards. 4:56, and colleague hands over the printed version and takes down mommy's details for the digital version to be sent through. The teenage daughter has been quiet. Anyway, they left our shop. It is now 4:58, and we have decided to close our doors. Damn, Aren't you going to be surprised when we don't send through the digital version tonight all because you were rude? We stop work at 5, so thank you. Barbara, you entitled jerk. Thank you for ruining the last 15 minutes of our day. Next story. I am not a Karen. I'm not a Kevin. I work nights at a petrol station and my sister works at the supermarket on my commute. I usually pop in after my shift to get some essentials and have a chat with my sister. She collects the online deliveries. I find my sister and she immediately tells me that one of her coworkers needs my advice. I'm the family carpenter and they go to for repairs and light construction. She finds her coworker and asks for advice on fitting custom blinds. An easy job that every contractor she called said no. Not worth the time. She doesn't have a clue what to do, so I offer my services for a small fee. While I'm doing all this, I don't see the woman behind me trying to get my attention. Once my coworker had gone, she tapped my shoulder. Not a typical Karen, tall, blonde, vintage glasses, pencil skirt, and a wool sweater. She looked like an attractive librarian. She asked, "Do I know when the party section will be open?" "Sorry, my dear, I have no idea." I told her straight. "Oh, I thought you worked here. You were talking to the staff for a long while." She replied, "I don't. My sister does." I pointed to my sister. She then looks worried. "Oh, no, it's like credit. I'm not a Karen, I'm not a Karen." I know what she means, I read this up too. Don't panic. I tell her, don't panic, I'm not a Kevin. My sister is confused by what we mean but answers her question. I thought it was going to be an out of work here lady moment. I read them all the time. She giggled some more. I thought the same thing. I wished her a good day and we parted ways. It made me giggle too. Anyways, I did fit coworkers' blinds, and she gave me £30 for it.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.